grand ballroom stood silent. Crystal chandeliers cast their light over tables dressed in crimson and gold, each centerpiece a masterpiece of winter roses and silver pine cones. A string quartet waited in the corner, instruments ready but untouched. The catering staff exchanged uncomfortable glances as they stood beside towers of untouched hors d'oeuvres and champagne flutes that sparkled with desperate emptiness. Marcus Chen, CEO of Chen Technologies and one of the city's most successful entrepreneurs, stood alone in his $1,000 suit, checking his phone for the 100th time. It was 8:45. The party had started at 7. Not a single person had come. If this story touches your heart, if you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, please take a moment to like this video. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more stories of hope and humanity to the world. Now let's continue with Marcus's journey. Marcus had spent the last decade building his empire. He had transformed a small software startup into a multinational corporation worth hundreds of millions. Along the way, he had made difficult decisions, cut costs ruthlessly, and prioritized profits over people. He had fired employees without hesitation when numbers dipped, dismissed concerns about work-life balance as weakness, and built a reputation as a brilliant but cold-hearted businessman. His success was undeniable, but somewhere in the climb to the top he had forgotten the human beings who had helped him get there. He had forgotten birthdays and anniversaries, missed his employees' children's graduations and weddings, and responded to personal crises with curt emails about productivity. When he sent out the invitations for this Christmas party, he had expected his executive team, his board members, his employees, to fill this ballroom with gratitude and celebration. Instead, the RSVPs had been polite but firm declines. One by one, they had chosen to spend Christmas Eve with their families rather than with the man who had spent years showing them they were merely resources to be managed. The realization settled over Marcus like winter frost. He was 52 years old, worth $200 million, and completely alone. His ex-wife had left him 5 years ago, taking their daughter to another state. His parents had passed away, disappointed that their son had become someone they no longer recognized. His brother no longer returned his calls. He had sacrificed every relationship at the altar of success, and now success was all he had. The emptiness of the ballroom was merely a reflection of the emptiness that had been growing inside him for years. He had been too busy, too focused, too driven to notice the silence that had been building around him until tonight, when it became impossible to ignore. Marcus walked to the window, looking out at the city lights below. Families were gathering in homes across the metropolis, sharing meals and laughter, creating memories that would last lifetimes. He had none of that. He had spreadsheets and stock options and a corner office on the 60th floor. The bitter irony was not lost on him. He had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. As he stood there, contemplating the wreckage of his personal life, he heard something unexpected. The sound of footsteps, children's laughter, the murmur of conversation in Spanish. Maria Santos pushed her cleaning cart through the service entrance, unaware that she was interrupting anything. She worked the night shift at Chen Technologies Tower, arriving after everyone had gone home to scrub floors and empty trash cans. Tonight she had brought her family with her because she had nowhere else to take them. Her sister Rosa had just arrived from Honduras with her 3 children, fleeing violence and seeking asylum. They had nowhere to go on Christmas Eve, and Maria's tiny apartment was barely big enough for her own 2 children. So she had made a decision. She would bring them all to work, let the children see the beautiful building, and they would share a simple meal in the break room before she started her shift. She had not expected anyone to be there, especially not the CEO himself, standing in the executive ballroom looking like a man who had lost everything despite having it all. The children saw the ballroom first. 7-year-old Sophia gasped and ran toward the lights, her younger brother Carlos following close behind. Maria's own children, teenage twins Ana and Miguel, stood frozen in the doorway, knowing they should not be there but captivated by the beauty of the scene. Rosa clutched her youngest child, baby Elena, and whispered apologies in Spanish, trying to usher everyone back toward the service elevator. But Marcus turned from the window, and instead of the anger they expected, they saw something else in his eyes. Something broken and searching. Something almost human. Marcus looked at this unexpected family standing in the doorway of his empty party. Maria wore a cleaning uniform and carried a bag of what appeared to be homemade food. The children wore their best clothes, which were clearly second-hand but carefully mended and pressed. Their faces glowed with wonder at the decorations, at the lights, at the magic of a room that had been prepared for celebration. In that moment, Marcus saw what he had been missing. Not guests who owed him their presence out of professional obligation, but human beings experiencing genuine joy. Not executives calculating networking opportunities, but children who had probably never seen anything so beautiful. Not people attending because they had to, but a family spending Christmas Eve together because they wanted to. He did something then that surprised everyone, including himself. He walked toward them, and instead of asking them to leave, he invited them to stay. His voice, usually so commanding in boardrooms, cracked slightly as he explained that he had prepared all this food, hired all these musicians, decorated this entire ballroom, and no one had come. Would they do him the honor of being his guests? Maria started to protest, understanding the absurdity of the situation, but something in Marcus's face stopped her. This was not the powerful CEO being magnanimous. This was a lonely man on Christmas Eve asking for company. This was someone who had finally realized that wealth without connection was just another form of poverty. What happened next would be something Marcus would remember for the rest of his life. The family stayed. Maria's homemade tamales were laid out on the elegant tables alongside the catered food. The string quartet, relieved to finally have an audience, played beautiful music while the children danced and laughed. Marcus found himself on the floor helping little Sophia build castles out of napkins, listening to Carlos explain his favorite dinosaurs, and hearing Rosa's story of courage and hope as she described her journey north to give her children a better life. Ana and Miguel, initially shy, began to open up, sharing their dreams of college and careers. Maria told them about her late husband, about working 3 jobs to support her family, about the dignity she found in honest work even when others looked through her as if she were invisible. As the evening wore on, Marcus began to understand something fundamental. These people, whom he would have dismissed months ago as irrelevant to his world, were teaching him what mattered. Sophia's delight at the chocolate fountain was more valuable than any business deal he had ever closed. Carlos's trust as he fell asleep in Marcus's arms carried more weight than his entire stock portfolio. Rosa's gratitude, expressed in broken English and flowing Spanish, meant more than any award he had received. Maria's quiet strength and unwavering love for her family showed him the kind of richness he had been chasing in all the wrong places. The next morning, Marcus Chen did not go to his empty penthouse apartment. He went to his office and began making calls. He started a foundation to support immigrant families. He changed company policies to prioritize employee well-being over pure profit margins. He reached out to his daughter, beginning the long process of rebuilding that relationship. He found Maria and offered her a job in facilities management with full benefits and a salary that would change her family's life, an offer she accepted with tears streaming down her face. He began showing up to employee events, learning names, asking about children and parents and dreams. He started saying thank you to the people who kept his building running, who made his coffee, who secured his offices at night. But more than any of these actions, Marcus carried with him the memory of that Christmas Eve, the night when his carefully constructed world collapsed and revealed itself as empty. The night when a cleaner's family brought him the gift he needed most. Not pity, not professional courtesy, but genuine human connection. The gift of being seen not as a CEO but as a person. The gift of laughter and tamales and children's joy. The gift of understanding that the things you cannot buy are the only things worth having. As he watched the sunrise on Christmas morning, Marcus realized that his party had actually been full after all. Full of the only guests who truly mattered, full of the love and humanity he had spent a lifetime overlooking, full of the redemption that comes when we finally open our eyes to see the people who have been there all along, waiting to remind us what it means to be human.